This video contains AI-generated narration and visuals. It is intended for educational and storytelling purposes only. March 11th, 2011. It was a quiet Friday afternoon in Okuma, Japan. Workers at the Fukushima Daiichi Nuclear Power Plant were going about routine inspections. Among them, 46-year-old senior technician Hiroshi Takeda reviewed pressure gauges inside Reactor Unit 1. No one could have predicted that in just moments, a massive force of nature would forever change their lives and the world's perception of nuclear safety. At exactly 2:46 p.m., the ground began to shake violently. A magnitude 9.0 earthquake, one of the strongest ever recorded, struck off the coast of Tohoku. Inside the control room, Hiroshi and his team struggled to stay on their feet as alarms blared. The entire Fukushima plant began an automatic shutdown, but the full scale of the disaster had only just begun to unfold. As the earthquake subsided, a brief silence fell, followed by emergency alerts warning a tsunami. At 3:41 p.m., a towering wall of water, over 14 meters high, slammed into Japan's northeastern coast. The plant's seawall, designed for smaller waves, was overwhelmed. Seawater surged past barriers, flooding the lower levels and knocking out the emergency diesel generators, the only power source left to cool the reactors. With the main power grid severed and backup generators submerged, the plant was plunged into darkness. Inside Reactor Units 1, 2, and 3, the cooling systems failed. Without cooling, the nuclear fuel rods began to overheat rapidly. Hiroshi and his team, now operating in near-total blackout, scrambled with flashlights and portable radios, tried to assess the damage and prevent a meltdown. Without cooling, temperatures inside Reactor Unit 1 soared past 2,800 degrees Celsius. Fuel rods began to melt, forming a deadly molten mass known as corium. Radiation levels spiked. The team received a chilling update. The core was melting down. Hiroshi stared at the monitors, knowing the worst-case scenario was unfolding before his eyes, and the window to act was closing fast. On March 12th, just after 3:30 p.m., a massive hydrogen explosion ripped through the outer building of Reactor Unit 1. A deafening blast shook the ground. A cloud of white smoke billowed into the sky, visible for miles. Hiroshi, watching from the command post, dropped to the floor from the shockwave. Everyone knew radiation was now being released into the air. Following the explosion at Reactor 1, the Japanese government issued an urgent evacuation order for residents within a 10-kilometer radius, later extended to 20 kilometers. Sirens blared through towns as families fled in panic. Meanwhile, Hiroshi and a shrinking team of workers remained behind. They were now known as the Fukushima 50, the last line of defense against total catastrophe. With power still cut off and cooling systems down, Hiroshi and the Fukushima 50 faced a desperate mission: manually inject seawater into the reactors to stop the meltdown. Every moment was critical. Radiation levels climbed dangerously high, forcing workers to rotate in and out quickly. Their bravery and determination were the only barriers between disaster and extinction. As they battled the reactors, radiation exposure took its toll. Many workers, including Hiroshi, experienced symptoms of acute radiation sickness, nausea, dizziness, and fatigue. Despite the risks, the Fukushima 50 pushed onward, knowing that retreat meant risking the lives of millions across Japan and beyond. News of the disaster spread quickly worldwide. Governments and agencies expressed alarm as radiation levels rose. International experts offered aid and advice. Meanwhile, the Japanese government struggled to balance transparency and public calm amid mounting fear and uncertainty. On March 14th, Reactor Unit 3 suffered a second devastating hydrogen explosion. This blast was even larger, tearing through the building's upper floors. The release of radioactive material into the atmosphere intensified. Emergency crews faced even greater risks, but Hiroshi and his team pressed on, their resolve unbroken. Radioactive contamination began to spread beyond the plant, carried by wind and rain. Farmland, rivers, and towns faced severe pollution. Officials struggle to contain the fallout, while residents grapple with fear and uncertainty about their health and futures. Behind the heroic efforts, mental fatigue and stress weighed heavily on Hiroshi and his colleagues. The relentless danger, uncertainty, and loss took a deep toll. Many battled fear, isolation, and guilt, knowing their lives and those of millions hung in a fragile balance. To relieve dangerous pressure inside the reactors, workers began venting radioactive steam into the atmosphere, a necessary but terrifying decision. Each release risked exposing the team to radiation while trying to prevent catastrophic explosions. In a desperate attempt to cool the reactors, the Japanese self-defense forces began helicopter water bombing, dropping thousands of liters of water on the reactor's rooftops. The operation was risky, with crews exposed to radiation and extreme weather. Firefighters bravely entered the radioactive zone to battle fires breaking out at the plant. Their heavy protective suits offered limited shielding, but their resolve to prevent further catastrophe was unwavering despite the risks. As days passed, the world anxiously monitored the unfolding crisis. News outlets broadcast updates around the clock. Public fear grew, and governments worldwide began reassessing nuclear safety protocols in light of Fukushima's harrowing lessons. Months after the disaster, many Fukushima workers faced serious health complications. Hiroshi himself battled radiation-induced illnesses. The sacrifices of the Fukushima 50 were finally gaining recognition, though the toll on their bodies and minds was immense. The cleanup and decommissioning of Fukushima Daiichi would span decades. Hazardous materials had to be carefully removed, contaminated soil excavated, and radioactive water treated. Hiroshi and many others dedicated their lives to restoring the land and safeguarding future generations. A decade later, Fukushima stands as a testament to human resilience. Though scars remain, communities are rebuilding, and lessons learned continue to shape nuclear safety worldwide. Hiroshi, now retired, visits the site, reflecting on loss, sacrifice, and hope for a safer future. Thank you for watching this detailed story of the Fukushima Daiichi Nuclear Disaster. If you found this video insightful, please subscribe to Tech Catastrophes for more in-depth tech and science disaster stories. Hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest videos. Stay safe and see you next time.